All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Progressives Abroad. This is your host, Boutique. We got Brock, the Screamin Eagle, Brairwood in the house all the way from America today. And special guest on the show today. How you doing today, mister?
It's very good to hear you live and well here in South Florida. Thank you so much for having me today, Boutique. Hope everything's going good over there in Norway and for all of our friends in Europe and across the world. We live in some scary times right now and just trying to stay safe, stay at home, stay safe, and let's get over this thing and let's get on the other side of this curve and find what our new normal will be.
So, Brock, where are you? How are you? What's happening?
So right now we are broadcasting live in the COVID-19 bunker live here in Delray Beach, Florida. We are under a quarantine, according to the governor of the state of Florida, Mr. Ron DeSantis. The South Florida Tri-County area has been ordered to stay at home through the month of April into May, potentially even longer. He has singled out our area. This is as of yesterday, so this is kind of breaking news. So we, as a community here in the Tri-County area, comprising of Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade, have close to between, let's call it 6 to 7 million people within about an hour and a half of one another. So as you're familiar with yourself being an expat of this lovely South Florida landscape, you know this area very well and how condensed this area is. And Miami-Dade County leads the state in confirmed cases of COVID-19, second to Broward County, and then Palm Beach is now third. So the situation is continuing to grow. Projection maps that we have seen continue to show that we will reach our peak probably somewhere around May 3rd. So we still have a month to go before this area reaches its peak. Now, those projections continue to change daily, sometimes even on an hourly basis. The projections that I continue to see from my sources here also show that we will have potentially close to a need of 2,400 ventilators in the state of Florida. I think the big deal right now is just limiting to what communities are being exposed, and we're all trying to adapt to this new reality of all these different kinds of changes. So, right now we are healthy and safe, and civil order is in place. We are ready to ride this thing out.
So what is this quarantine? Can you bring us there on the ground? Like, what is this quarantine, or what are they officially calling it? What's the official name?
So the official name is stay-at-home orders.
Stay-at-home orders. What does this look like?
Orders.
Yeah. Okay.
So sure, let me paint a picture for you. So when we go out and about and kind of, I guess you can say, define the stay-at-home orders. The stay-at-home orders are very explicit in saying that you are only allowed to go out and about in the community for certain needs. If you're going to the grocery store, if it's for exercise, or if you are considered an essential employee for an essential business that's still staying open. Essentially, though, it is a ghost town. As we ride by our park down the street, the park has signs on it that say "Do not enter." And when we drive over to the beach area here, and we're going along normally where there are spots for people to park their vehicles, everything is blocked off. There's road signs, there's yellow caution tape, pretty ominous sign of what's going on. There's beach closed signs on normal entry points where we would be able to previously freely go and walk out to the beach area. We've seen a lot more people exercising though. So let's take some good out of this.
Interesting.
People, very interesting. So like, it makes me feel like when I was with you, when we were in the Nordmarka, and just the way that you described the way of life there in Oslo. And now I see so many more people outside rollerblading, walking, riding their bike, running. I even saw this woman dancing on the side of the street, just randomly dancing. So it's just, people are coming together in ways that we would never have come together before. I also this morning had sources tell me that in Miami, the cavernous buildings of downtown Miami, Brickell, the apartment buildings down there, everyone, a la what's been going on in Italy and across the world, France, people are out on their balconies and having parties. So not with lots of people in each unit, but 2-3 people on a balcony, and one person's projecting loud music that everyone in the entire building is out, and you can see everyone on their balcony connecting in certain ways. So Publix, though, so Publix is a large supplier of groceries here. It's the probably #1 supermarket in the Southeast, not just here in Florida. Publix has instituted implementing plexiglass in front of all their cashiers now. So you basically have like a sneeze guard in front of them, so the communication. But there are reports of workers continuing to get sick. There are Publix workers and Whole Foods workers who have been confirmed to have the virus. So it is a scary time to even go out to the grocery store. Everything is literally closed. You can go to restaurants and pick stuff up, so there are people out doing that. But we see an inordinate amount of vehicles driving around still, which still blows our mind. So even on the highway, there's just people driving and driving around, and there should be much, much less people on the roads, we feel. And maybe it just has to do with people still really kind of being able to go out and go do their thing. But also on the ground, sources are telling me that in Fort Lauderdale, they are threatening to arrest people. And I think we're starting to see that around the rest of the country. I saw a report this morning that the mayor in DC was saying that there will be fines and arrests for people who violate the stay-at-home order. That's a complete infringement upon our rights. And I get for the reason why, I totally understand. And I think that's just a threat, but nonetheless, that's a threat against our civil liberties. And maybe we can talk about that at a later point. But we have to be very careful of what we continue to see here and hold those in power accountable.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting, right? That we see, I mean, all around the world, we do see like a lot of different approaches to how to contain this virus. Now, of course, if you look into China and how they took care of it, it's like a very extreme example on like one side of the spectrum, I guess you would say. But I mean, they really did control it after they locked down. But that's a place where they have like massive control over people, right? So
absolutely. And I think I shared that video with you that we received here in the USA News Desk, that there was a person who was going to learn Tai Chi who was from, I believe, the UK, and he was able to get into the Hubei province. And the way of life there is exactly what you said. It's extremely draconian, very Orwellian. They have social rating systems for their citizens, and you're green, yellow, or red, and if you're red, you can't move out of your house. Basically, they monitor every single move you make. There's millions of CCTV TV cameras. They track every move. But that's the same thing here in America, and it's the same thing in other areas of the West as well. It's just not such a direct, blatant infringement on your rights, and it's not monitored 24/7. It's there. Like everywhere I go around here, I know I'm on camera. I'm on camera when I leave my house, when I leave my gated community. I'm on camera, and so they see me leaving. They have my license plate, so they know my movements. And that's everywhere you go. I mean, everything's tracked by our cell phones. There's really no way around it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the problem, and we were talking about this a little bit before the show today. That I think that we have this amazing technology, right? And then we have this amazing ability to solve a problem with this technology. This technology can be used for good or bad. I mean, there's so many, I'm not going to pretend to be one of them, but there's so many, scientists and programmers and like computer engineers and internet gurus, that, all these from Amazon to whatever, all these Silicon Valley people, and they all, say, yeah, we can pretty much track your every move. And we are. And I mean, from the way that from the amount of time that you spend on a certain part of a page to how quick you click onto something else. I mean, they're determining things to us all the time. So it's used very much, at least in the States, as we know it, very directly in things like advertising and stuff like that. But we can also use that in a way to, for example, stop like a pandemic from spreading, which sounds like a great idea. Yeah, it's just kind of funny that, I think in the end it has a lot to do with trust. How much do you trust your government? I don't think anybody should really trust the government or anybody really fully 100%. But like, can you trust them enough to handle this kind of information in an ethical way? And I mean, there's many cases where we've seen all around the world, in the United States, and I mean, remember back during the Patriot Act? Whew.
Oh yeah. Oh, and we're still fighting these changes that we gave up in the name of national security. So let's take a trip back to 2001. And when, I remember going to the airport here at Palm Beach International Airport as a kid with my father, and we'd be able to walk right in. I mean, he would take me down the concourse, and I mean, hell, I used to sit in the pilot's seat when I was a little kid on Eastern Airlines, if anyone out there remembers good old Eastern Air. That I would sit in the pilot seat and be in the front of the plane. Now, given completely different, like obviously we can't do that anymore. And look, I was a kid, right? But let's talk about what happened with the Patriot Act and then all the subsequent changes that have come from that and what we have given up in the name of national security. And I think we're okay with this. We become okay with this. We're okay with taking our shoes off. We're okay with getting our bodies scanned. That they literally can see what I have underneath my clothing. We're okay with being patted down to get on an airplane now. We've become accustomed to these things over the past 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And it's an infringement on our rights, and our fundamental rights have been trampled on, but we do it to stay safe. So here's the fine line that we're now walking with this. This is an emergency. This is emergency like you and I, no one has ever seen in over the past 100+ years. And hopefully won't ever see again now that we're going to learn from this in modern time and how can we apply these things moving forward. However, let's take a look at what's happening on the ground here. So in Florida, we have roadblocks now. The governor has instituted roadblocks that are effective in I-10 and I-95, and the backups are tens of miles long of people trying to get in to the state of Florida. Now, what are they doing with these roadblocks? Because the fundamental basis of the Constitution, one of the pillars of the Constitution, is interstate travel and commerce. And without that, we cease to be a union. The rights that I have here in Florida, now given each state and municipality has their own variation of said law. However, me being able to freely travel to Georgia or me being able to get in my car and drive to Louisiana should be of no issue at all. I shouldn't be stopped. And I shouldn't be, oh, here we go. Very good. Yep. Oh, good. From our local friends here at WPTV. Good local news source.
Out of West Palm Beach, right?
Stick to the facts. Based in West Palm, flagship station in downtown West Palm.
So there's the headline right there.
Yep, there you go. And so that's just on I-95. They're also doing blocks on I-10 to stop anyone from coming in from Louisiana. New Orleans is a hot spot, as you might have seen in international news cycle. So what's the point of I-95? To prevent people from coming in from the Northeast, which is the hot spot right now here in the country. And then also now for I-10 to stop people from coming in. However, what's striking is that we don't have stops on I-75, which people can easily just cut over and get to I-75 to come down in the state. So it doesn't really make sense. How is this being justified though? What is Governor DeSantis' words is that, oh, we're stopping people, but we're not quarantining anybody. We're not taking anyone and holding them against their will, which is true. As of now, we haven't seen any reports about that. All that they're doing is they're giving information to people that have license plates that say New York or from different areas, Louisiana. So they're giving information to people to say, hey, you need to self-quarantine for 14 days. They're taking information, though. They're taking names. They're taking phone numbers. They're taking license plate information. So there is now being there's a tracking system that's being developed, but it is not being talked about. And that is very Orwellian. Those are things that we are not accustomed to here, especially as we go from state to state. We shouldn't be tracked going state to state at all. But now it's blatant and now it's obvious. And I get why they're doing it. I'm not necessarily against that because we're doing it anyway on airplanes. When people fly down from New York, the governor has instituted laws or orders now that anyone coming in from the state of New York or the tri-state area, Connecticut, Jersey, New York, they have to self-quarantine for 14 days, and that they're not allowed to be out into the general population here of South Florida primarily. But that applies for the whole state. That's a whole state order. But there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety of where do we keep going? This is a very slippery slope, and how much more are we going to see of our erosion of rights to stay safe? And if people just stayed at home, if people just listened to what the CDC, listen to the scientists, don't listen to who's in the White House necessarily, okay? Because that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, left or right, okay? He really doesn't. And this is very apparent from what's been going on.
He is not the person to take any sort of advice from.
None whatsoever. Not at all.
Dude, I wouldn't trust him on where to go get the early bird special. You know what I mean? Like, which is what he should be doing right now. You know what I mean? That dude should be sitting at a golf course getting the early bird special in fucking West Palm Beach. You know what I mean?
Good old Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Mar-a-Lago is actually, by the way, sources say that Mar-a-Lago is shut down, which okay, not a surprise, but he would have been down here every weekend anyway right now. So he's just upset he can't come play golf down here. But the thing is that if look, his ratings right now, Trump's ratings are high, as most leaders through crisis have been.
Very important point.
You know, Bush's ratings skyrocketed after 9/11. Trump's ratings are still up there. I haven't seen some of the latest polls, so I'm not going to try to quote information. But I know that people still are approving what he's doing. Look, has there been much more of a push now that I think it's been a sobering moment for him to see what's really happening, how much the death toll is racking up? I believe I can say, in quoting, he said the other day that everything would be good if it's just 100,000 people. Just 100,000 people. 100,000 people are going to have to die on the low end, and that's if we do everything right. When we constantly see reports of shortages in hospitals, and people on the front line can't even be protected against this virus. And look, we got to flatten the curve. I think people are doing that. I think people are staying at home for the most part. But when you're at home, that means to stay in your house. So on the ground here in my own community here, and what we're seeing is unbelievable. There are people who are sitting around in 10 chairs in a circle, like it's 4th of July.
Yep.
And having barbecues and drinking beer, and like, look, I get it.
Everybody thinks they're on vacation or something right now, you know?
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I think that's just because it's ingrained in who we are here. And we're used to being outside, especially this time of year. It's beautiful here in South Florida. This is why we live here for these months. But just grow a brain, people. Like, come on. And that goes from the White House down. But the person I'll only listen to is Dr. Fauci and the scientists. Follow the science. Follow the data.
To be honest, things must be serious because I'm surprised that guy hasn't gotten fired yet. You know what I mean?
Ooh, very good point. Because normally he would have been out of there 4 weeks ago.
Absolutely.
No, quite. That's a very good point there, sir. I didn't really think about that way. You're right. And what a PR mess that would be if he got rid of him right now. So he knows he can't. They're trying to limit his like media exposure. I heard rumors about that he's not speaking at the press conferences as much anymore. But I think he was on Trevor Noah the other night, and he's still making his rounds. and CNN's giving him airtime, and I think he's getting the appropriate airtime that he needs to, and he's still being quoted. So he's not been completely pushed out of the news cycle yet. But you got to listen to guys like him versus anyone else.
I mean, you got to remember, Trump at the end of the day, I mean, he's a maniac, but he is representing the Republican Party. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And the Republicans want to get reelected. And how are they going to get reelected if all of their base dies of coronavirus? No, seriously. Well, like, because man, I wish I had the story right now. I'll have to bring it up because I know people will want me to quote this. But I mean, there was a study done the other day, and I'll try to find it and post it after the show. But where almost almost county by county, if you look at the voting, what do I say? If you looked at a map of like red and blue, county by county in the United States,
yeah,
there are higher coronavirus cases in red counties.
Wow. Now here, could we call that the Fox News effect?
Oh,
because
yeah. I mean Trump is a product of that.
Well, of course. I mean, that's our mouth. That's the government news channel there right now.
Mm-hmm.
And look, and I'm not an advocate for mass media in any way, shape, or form. I mean, CNN, MSNBC, all of them got their own host of problems and
Oh yeah.
Well, so I'm not trying
that's
to
why we're here.
That's what we're here to cut through the spin. This is the no spin zone. This is the Screamin Eagle zone, and we will keep it real and scream the truth from trusted sources. Personally, I take a look at the BBC. I even look at Al Jazeera. I think I mentioned that to you.
Oh,
because those are just, it's non-polarized, non-slanted type of information. But I also like to get both sides, and like I'll listen to Rush. I'll listen to Fox News. You got to hear what's going on over there.
Yeah,
I'm scary, but you got to pay attention to it.
Oh, dude, I'm 100% with you. Like, I'm fully in support of being media literate. You know what I mean? You got to read all. You got to be able to compare, contrast, synthesize your own information. And if anything, even if you are like, vastly on one side or the other, you got to be able to know the other side. You got to be able to know the enemy. You know what I mean? Or whatever you want to call it. You got to know the polar opposite, whatever you want to call it, the other side of the spectrum. Because then you can make your well-informed, independent decision,
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to bring here to this broadcast and what your platform is here in Progressives Abroad. And I mean, trying to stick to the facts as well from the USA News Desk, and just especially right now with what's going on with the virus, and where do we stand with what we've discussed already, our rights, how are things being infringed upon. We haven't even touched on the economy yet. I mean, you're talking to an economic casualty of this. You are as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But like, our respective industries have been hit, and the trickle down effect is going to be like nothing we've ever seen. And I'm hopeful for the economy to recover quickly. I think once we get past the curve and that we're okay to start opening up some pieces of society, nothing like what Trump was saying April 12th. I think he had to put his tail between his legs this week and say April 30th. Yeah. We got to push it to April 30th. But look, the impact and what I'm seeing on reports here this morning was that we're looking at anywhere from 30 to potentially 40% unemployment. You're talking 50 plus million Americans without a job. Things are trickling down starting tomorrow. Including me, my rent is due. How's that going to work out? I don't have a job right now. My wife can't start her job because of the virus. So the trickle down effect, you're hearing reports of even people or organizations like the Cheesecake Factory can't pay their rent. So if you got big companies like them, 20 some odd plus stores in a region that can't pay the commercial real estate, so what's that going to look like? How many trillions of dollars of loans are going to be defaulted upon on the commercial real estate side, not only the residential side. You got mortgages and rent and all these different things that are going to be defaulted on. And because I think the statistic is like 1 in 3 Americans have like less than $400 that they can have
Yep.
available to them in an emergency. I mean, good Lord. So this is just going to be a cascade of stuff that the economic package, and like I do need to hand it to the federal government to see a bipartisan piece of legislation come together so quickly. I don't think I've ever seen that in my life, that they were able to do something as crazy huge as the $2 trillion CARE Act that they passed last week in such a quick time. So that just shows you what can be done, and how government can really, truly work together. Both sides can come together for a common good, but like what's happened to that common good? What is that common good? Does it really take something like this tragic pandemic where hundreds of thousands of people are going to lose their lives, millions of lives are going to be impacted and changed forever from this? It took that for us to come together to pass legislation. It's sad, and let's hope that other fundamental changes can happen for the greater good down the line.
But let's be lot to unpack there. Let's be real though, because I mean, I won't get into like every single element of it, but I mean, there is a lot. It is amazing. I don't know. In some ways, I'm amazed. In some ways, I'm not. Like, I mean, the federal government can kind of do whatever it wants. Just from my observation, it's kind of a theater. You know what I mean? Like,
correct.
They do what they. And right now, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but like I think they actually need to do more, because you've got
elaborate.
Yeah, because you can't just say, okay, we're gonna. I mean, it's a nice start, to say, okay, we're gonna give people some money, we're gonna try to like expedite that, but. I mean, at the end of the day, we should be giving people. How is this going to help people? It'll help people in the very, very short term, and it's going to look really good for Trump's approval rating. It's going to look really good to like get votes in November. But I mean, a one-time payment of $1,200, and only if you are within some certain means, because it's also means tested. Like
it is, but it's skewed, and I gotta say though, it's skewed to help. The 1% gets nothing of that money, and that's great. So the 1% isn't getting anything. Anyone who makes over $99,000, anyone who makes over $100,000 isn't seeing a dime. And me, even I'm on a sliding scale, so it's really anyone who makes $75,000 and less is getting $1,200. If you're between 75 to 100, you're on a sliding scale. So okay, I tip my hat there a little bit. I'm on the sliding scale. So I am not getting that full amount, but it's also how quickly can they get that to us? And I think it's still going to take a few weeks. So if people's rent is due, like my rent is due in a couple of days, what's going to happen to me? And then there's so many other people out there that are in the same boat.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to find it right now. It might take me a minute, but if you're under a certain income too, you get less money. This is
enlighten me on that then, because I'm not familiar with that report there.
Okay, I might have to bring it back later.
Good, no worries.
I gotta. But it's like what? Like I just say, like interesting, great. I mean, that we have this kind of crisis now, and to kind of compare it to like what's happening over here right now. So we have this crisis right now, and then all of a sudden we got to start rolling out the government programs. You know what I'm saying? Like people are always like, oh no, we don't want the government mixed in with our lives. And again, like also stuff like, this is infringing upon our liberty and all this kind of stuff. But the moment disaster hits, like people want the government very much in their lives. You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
This is something that which is great to bring up at this point in time. And I would love for some of our like, progressive candidates to like take advantage of that at this point in time to highlight that fact, which I don't think they're doing a very good job at. But
well, they can't break through the news cycle right now either. I mean, it's just so dominated by coronavirus coverage that I haven't seen any headline of Bernie or of even Biden like crack the top 5 or 10 as far as like what's going on or what people even care about to hear from right now.
Oh yeah, and I mean this is great. I mean, I think behind the scenes, I think the DNC is probably scrambling a bit because like Bernie's been very vocal even though he's not the front runner right now, but he's been very vocal. Like he's got his live streams and like he's live streaming every night, like doing his town halls and stuff. He's still
really?
he's still campaigning, but like big time. But like Biden, he's just like disappeared. You don't hear
Yeah, he
from him
has.
at all.
He
And he's
completely has.
supposed
I
to
haven't
be,
seen anything.
yeah. I mean, dude, I think last weekend, Bernie raised $2 million in one night, for
Wow.
different
I
community
didn't know that.
aid programs. In Vermont, they just made, this was also last week in Vermont, they made, I think it was definitely people that work at supermarkets. It might also be delivery people considered part of like the emergency workers. They have some
Mm.
law there where they consider them emergency workers, so those people can get free childcare. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So I mean, he's making things happen. I don't know what Biden's doing. I don't want to go too much into tangent, but he's just like, I don't know what he just disappeared. I mean,
He has. I
I
think
feel
Uncle Joe's asleep right now, but like he needs to wake up
I
if he
think
wants to
I think
stay in the
either he's
forefront.
got coronavirus, he's on his last
Let's
legs,
hope not.
or he just doesn't
Let's
know what
hope
to do.
not.
I mean, I hope.
Well, he was confused anyway beforehand, and
Yeah.
I think it's kind of been funny. Governor Cuomo in New York has gotten more press as being a sneak-in candidate to
Yeah, I
become
know.
president, and Trump is giving him more press. That I could see myself running against Cuomo. I'm like, whoa,
This is
like
wild.
so Cuomo's getting more coverage than any. I'm sorry, than either of the two candidates. Now I know Bernie. Okay, I guess he's talking to his audience and broadcasting, but like as far as mainstream
Well, yeah,
and what's
he
in the
was never in the
forefront right now.
mainstream. Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, like, who's getting that coverage? Cuomo, who's not even a candidate, he's getting more coverage. He's mentioned more than the other two guys. So
Yeah, I mean,
it
it is
shows you where we're at.
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the whole DNC like media relationship will always just direct it where they want it to go. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, they will, of course. But
Uh,
let's also real quick. Let's just take a look at some of and let's acknowledge the progressive ideas and changes that have happened that Republicans voted for. The care package, the CARE Act, was one of the most progressive things done maybe since even the New Deal. I mean, or maybe even since the Affordable Care Act. Like, I mean, it it's insane the lifeline that they've thrown out there, which is a great sign. So what does that say? Is that now I think you're going to have conversations come to the forefront that even maybe people who never would have entertained it in the past, but as far as universal health care or to have free or at least modify stuff from Obamacare, do something different that gives people access to things. Another report, very quickly, sorry to get off on a tangent here, but very quickly, I read something about how insurance premiums potentially might go up by 40% next year because of the virus. So, let's see if Bernie seizes on something like that and talks about, and I know he talks about that stuff anyway, but let's see if Biden even does. Let's see if other talking heads out there do. But that's a real concern. So how are you going to control that? You have to have legislation to control insurance premiums and to control the insurance industry overall. That's what's driving up healthcare costs. Let's focus on changing that. Let's focus on implementing laws to change that to help the American people, really, because 40% increase, everyone's going to be broke anyway. What the hell? So I think you're not going to be able to do anything but have a universal healthcare system at that point. We got to hit the reset button.
We got to. I mean, if anything, many things have been proven through this about how the government can pull out all the stops when they want to or when they need to. But, one thing we learned is they can just pull out trillions of dollars out of their butt whenever they want.
Just willy-nilly. Oh,
how are you going to pay for that?
Here you go, Mr. Eagle. Here, I'll just shit out a couple of $100.
How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to? Dude, we just had like the biggest bailout ever, like 5 days in a row or whatever, like a whole week in a row, like overnight. Like, no, there was no talk about it. There was nothing. There's just.
And that's I think Pelosi herself even said that that's just the down payment. That's the down payment for what's to come. So what else is to come? That was already close to 10% of GDP, I think, that $2 trillion package. Are you going to go 50% of GDP on your next one? You're going to have to. You're going to have to start forgiving student loans. You're going to have to start forgiving rent. We will become a welfare state. I mean, it's not something that's planned, and it's going to be done in an ineffective, inefficient manner because it's done on the fly. And like these are things that have been talked about for a long time, but what does that look like? Are those things really going to come? You're going to have to. Like, how are people going to pay their student loans? How are people going to be able to stay where they live? It's just, there's so much to consider and talk about. It's overwhelming.
Yeah, it is. It is overwhelming. I think today's just like a vent session. We'll have to like dissect these things. We'll have to. Well, it's gonna be
unloaded a lot today.
It's gonna be interesting to see how it unfolds too. I mean, there's so many. I feel like we could take every topic and have a whole episode about it.
We could.
But it is crazy, dude. Like one thing, just to bring it on the other side of the pond real quick, is just to kind of like bounce it back and forth a little bit. Is like, it is interesting because I hope I say U.S. take what you can get right now. You know what I mean? Like, if this can somehow turn into a universal healthcare system, or like somehow turn into more of a welfare state, I think it would be a good thing. One thing I hope that comes out of this that I've been thinking about in the past couple of days is, I talk to my friends, I talk to you, I talk to all kinds of people, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm signing up for unemployment." My brother, he was going to, take pictures of people, giving out free meals today. But it's like, those free meals just aren't just going to homeless people on the street anymore. You know what I mean? Those free meals are going to your neighbors. They're going to, and so I'm hoping that the image of the welfare system, because, it's not, we have, in the United States, if you compare it to how they view the welfare system here, like in Scandinavia or Europe or pretty much the rest of the developed world, the stereotypical image in the United States of the welfare system is something that I don't even want to describe, because it's kind of, I think, shameful how people talk about the welfare system in the United States. It's really just like bottom of the barrel, like end of the road, like. But now I think the average American is getting in touch with the quote unquote welfare system in kind of a positive way. I mean, I don't mean in the bureaucracy. I think it's probably going to be a disaster, like applying for unemployment benefits and stuff like this. Like, I imagine just the system is, probably good in some places, probably difficult in other places, and it's just not, like, getting overloaded from what I understand. But I mean, I'm hoping that people get a bit more in touch with this idea of welfare being a positive thing. That, for example, over here, they call Norway and these Scandinavian countries and most of like the European countries, they call them like welfare states. You know what I mean? And you hear this negatively talked about quite a bit in the media, or like misunderstood a lot of the time.
Yeah, misunderstood.
But what a welfare state is like, you are involved from death to birth. From birth to death. You know what I mean? Like, you are a part of that system from the day you're born to the day you die. From the day you pop out and you're in the national, you're in the hospital that's run by the national healthcare system, throughout your college, throughout your studies, throughout the birth of your children, throughout your pension, throughout the hospice, God forbid, you receive when you're going off into the next level. You're involved in this health welfare system. And it's just something, it's something that is exactly what it sounds like: welfare for the good of the common people, And
go ahead. I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, what were you gonna
say? I think what it comes down to, you're exactly right. You're spot on. This is most Americans' first time interacting with this system, mine included. I've worked for 17 years. I've never once, thank God, I've never once had to file for unemployment until a week ago. And it was a very cumbersome, surreal process, but I need it. I need that help. And so I'm coming to the government and I'm saying, Uncle Sam, please help me, Screamin Eagle. Like, I need your help right now. And like, this is when we turn to government. This is when we turn to those things that I never normally would have. So this is my first taste of it. And maybe on a different broadcast, we can discuss and dive deeper into what the welfare system is here in America, and
Mm-hmm.
how it's incentivized for certain things. And my take on it, and I think parts of that can be good, because I mean, you want people not working and not contributing or paying taxes. And so I guess my question is, and what you can clarify in the Norwegian system or the European system overall, from birth, what's your contribution? What does that look like? What are the details of that? Like, educate me on the pay structure. How are things paid for? Is it more of a corporate tax? Is it more of a personal income tax? Is it based on salary level? And again, that might be unwrapping a lot more than what we want to get into right now. But if you can
Mm-hmm.
talk about, how does the system help people now,
Yeah.
especially during a crisis like this?
Well, yeah, yeah, I think we should definitely do a whole episode on cross cultural comparisons of welfare systems. I get excited about stuff like that, but to put it in the context of the coronavirus COVID situation. So this is what's so crazy. Now, just to give you a broad sense. Okay, so this, how in the United States we have the Social Security number, the
Yes.
Social
Yes.
Security card. Okay, so we have that here too, of course.
Okay.
It's, I mean, the name actually says it all. I mean, when I lived in the States, I didn't feel so secure when I had my Social Security card, But here
Mhm.
you have a Social Security number, and it does exactly that. This is your key to the Social Security system. So, I mean, from birth, your mom isn't going into like amazing, ungodly amounts of debt to have you, and all the care that she needs afterwards. And how it works, in a coronavirus situation is actually quite similar to how it would work in any situation.
Mm.
And so when this whole thing started happening, so I mean, we're both in the same industry. I think, we're both in this, tourism industry. And that was maybe, we were the first ones, literally and figuratively, maybe out near the beach seeing the tidal wave coming,
Yep.
because we're also one
Yep.
of the most, I mean, tourism industry is a very vulnerable industry. We could get into all the theory about why tourism is necessary or whatever, but I mean, on the real deal, when it comes to people and their expendable income, tourism is the first thing to go. So,
Yep.
I mean, I saw the tidal wave come in quite early because of this, because getting
Yep.
all of these, emails from different providers and partners and all hotels and blah blah blah. So you saw it coming, and even at that moment, I was like, I was talking to my colleagues, and we were like, oh God, like this is not looking good. And you start cutting down your business, and you start looking at all these things and trying to cut corners and all that. And then comes the day where the government says we've closed the borders, cruise ships can't come in for whatever, and no tourists are coming. So you get the call, and they say, okay, your boss says, okay, we're all going to go on what they call here in Norway, they call it permittering. And I learned the word for this for the first time in English, actually, which I think is furlough. Yeah.
Yep.
Where it's like you're like kind of like temporarily laid off, but but I
That's
knew,
me.
yeah.
That's my designation right now.
Yeah, so
Furlough.
me too. So at that point in time, I was already very aware of what the government had in place on any normal day, even if this happened not during a crisis situation, which would be like, okay, you get this, you're going to go on the website, you're going to type in your social security number, you're going to fill out some questionnaire about what happened, and you get a letter from your boss. Y'all send it in, very nice digitally PDF, type in your social security number, and boom, there it goes. So, and what you know is you already know what you're going to get. You're going to get, everybody in Norway gets, if you're unemployed or permittert or furloughed or whatever, you get 62.5% of your usual income based
Wow.
on the past 12 months of what you made.
Wow.
So yeah, but that's the thing. Like, this system's already set up, and I mean, I know there's an unemployment system in the United States too, but I'm not exactly sure, how that's working. But from what I understand, at least it sounds like it's difficult. Yeah, you don't get a lot of money and all this stuff like that. But it's like, the thing is that system is already set up, just like the healthcare system. The healthcare system is already set up. So you don't need to, the government isn't like juggling all these things right now. The only thing the government's focusing on right now is like, okay, we don't have to worry about people having health insurance. We don't have to worry about people having access to healthcare. All we need to really worry about here in like, these universal healthcare system is how to manage it right now. We're just managing the okay, do we have enough beds? Like, do we have this? And what should we do with the people that are like less sick, and what to do with the people that are more sick? But we're not dealing with these big like existential ideas of like, how do we get the healthcare system to work? What are we going to do about all these insurance companies and all kinds of stuff like this? So sorry, I went
Do
off
you
on a
think
bit
that's
of a
coming
rant.
though? No, it's great. That was great stuff. Do you think that's coming though? Do you think that there will be change to the European system from this?
There might be. I mean, there might. You know what I think I think the one thing. I mean, because I have a lot of criticism about the way that the European Union and Norway and the rest of the countries around here are dealing with it, because everybody's kind of dealing with it in their different way. And I think the big change that would come, and this would probably come for the United States too, is that they would probably be more prepared for pandemics, or something big, like they might have to expand their healthcare systems. And also on the healthcare side, and also on the financial side, I think that they like need to approach things like small businesses better, because they took a little in some other countries like Germany and Denmark. They did a good job when they started telling businesses they have to close down. They also came out with like kind of welfare for businesses, like right away.
Oh,
And they finally did this after 2 weeks. It took them 2 weeks in Norway to do that. So a lot of small businesses are like shaking in their shoes right now, kind of.
well,
Oh,
that happened here too, and that was part of the CARE Act. That was a
yeah,
portion of the CARE Act was I think 500 billion for small businesses and interest-free loans, but there's stipulations tied to that. So to
exactly.
that point exactly, when I was initially let go by my organization, the letter I received said that my position was, quote, temporarily laid off. It did not mention any furlough whatsoever. Now I do have to hand it to my organization that they had offered to pay my healthcare coverage until May 31st. So they're going to pay 100% of my premiums, even though I'm not getting a paycheck from them anymore. They're paying 100% of my premiums until May 31st. That's fantastic, and I'm very thankful for that. Especially me being someone who has private health insurance here, one of the 120 or 130 million people here in America that have private health care insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So that was huge. But my designation of not being furloughed to now change to be furloughed only benefits the organization primarily. So it helps me definitely, yes. And let me be clear on that. So the designation change was done by my organization this past Friday because of the CARE Act passing. So there's a provision in the CARE Act that requires small businesses with less than 500 people to have their employees designated as furloughed. So that means that I still get to stay active in the system. I still get to, although I've already accrued all my sick time, I'm salaried, so I don't accrue pay time off. I don't lose any of my tenure, but really that's more for like the hourly associates, non-salaried people that get to still accrue their sick time, get to accrue their PTO, even though they're not on the payroll. So that's good. That's very good. I get to retain all my benefits other than my health insurance benefits, but I would have to retroactively, and this is still being decided, this is not 100%, I will retroactively have to pay for those benefits once I get active again and back on the payroll, as they say.
Wow,
But
you have to pay back the benefits.
I have to pay back the benefits, yes. And it's being discussed, but that's kind of, and it's not
Wow.
confirmed. I mean, everything changes as it goes, but like my short-term disability, my long-term disability, my eye care coverage, my dental coverage, I would have to pay back that money over some point. I don't know. I don't know. And yeah, I know that's kind of like, oh, wow, like really. But the biggest thing is the healthcare. That's the biggest chunk. And if my organization is going to take care of that, then that's great. But only because of my designation and now being furloughed am I active. Normally a furlough, quick endpoint here, furlough usually has an end date attached to it when it's a government furlough. Let's say when the government shut down last December, not this past, but 2018, there was a date attached to that like people were going to be furloughed for a month, two. I have an indefinite date. There is no set date for me to come back on the payroll. It could be 6 months from now for all I know. It just depends on where we are. How does tourism come back? When do flights start flying? I saw a report today, 93 air travel compared to a year ago today, down 93% year over year. So the industry is dead. No one is traveling. The airlines, we rely so much on the airlines. We're all intertwined here. So that's all gone. But anyway, so got off the point. My point being is that the designation helps. There is help there. It allows me to also file for unemployment when I'm considered to be furloughed. So that's allowed me to get in line in the system to be able to get to my unemployment insurance on steroids, as Chuck Schumer said. So when I can touch on that later, but that's very interesting points to bring up about the European system. And I think there still will be fundamental change maybe across the entire world on how
there's
we
got to
approach
be.
healthcare and so forth.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk about, just improving the global healthcare system. And this is, a point that I think brings this all together is that, nowadays, I think it's really becoming very apparent that nationalism is not so relevant, I mean, it's things like your region, who your neighbors are, like, what's happening in China, you know what I mean? I mean, I remember last time I was in the States, I mean, I feel silly about it too. When I was in the States, I remember around New Year's already hearing reports about what's going on in China, you know what I mean? And we're just like, nah, not it. Okay, whatever.
Right.
And
right.
I mean, so what
Disregarded it.
I'm hoping that, of course, about the welfare thing, I'm hoping for that, but I'm also hoping for, people to realize a bit more how connected we are,
Sure.
It sounds very, obvious to a lot of people that are probably listening out there, but I think that this is becoming so real now. Like you said, like I mean, you've never had to deal with the welfare, the unemployment system before. Right. And I think a ton of people out there are experiencing this right now for the first time. And I'm hoping that, and the thing is too, is I want people out there to know it's not something that I feel like I've experienced that too before when I've been like unemployed and stuff, where I felt like, oh, I don't know if I should do this because I feel kind of, because I think I get that from my more American mentality of, I don't want to lend from the government and stuff like that. But I mean, we got to recognize these are our tax dollars. That is money that we put in the bank for a rainy day, and it's time to get that money.
That's right. I'm with you. And I think some changes that need to be made. The unemployment insurance system, the way it trickles down, it's run by the states. So the states have full control over it. The state of Florida is abysmal. It has one of the worst, one of the lowest payouts in the entire country. I think we're number 47 out of the 50 states, which is unacceptable. And how did this happen? If I'm not mistaken, it started with Rick Scott. Voldemort sat there and said, how can I help my buddies in the healthcare industry? Because, he's taking money from everybody there in the healthcare industry. And that what can he do to help people and his good buddies to have lower costs? And they lowered the amount so that way there was less that corporations would have to put in to help cover people, and also to incentivize it. And this is what I was getting to eventually for us to have a discussion on is at another time. But the incentivization of the welfare system, and that, look, I get it. Like, you don't want people to sit there on welfare and make $24 an hour sitting at home playing video games all day, because what is their contribution overall to society? But maybe, here's an idea, maybe you have them volunteer. And if you volunteer X amount of hours, giving back to the community, doing certain things. If you don't want to work, okay, fine. But maybe make minimum amount, make $15 an hour. But you got to go work 40 hours and do volunteer work somewhere and rebuild the community. Do something tangible that you can see in the community. Maybe
Absolutely,
as an alternative. So something like that it incentivizes something different versus, get yourself plugged back into the matrix and back into paying income tax and all these other things that are going to suck away from what will contribute to the overall good.
Yeah, absolutely. That's and I know we definitely have programs like that here.
Really? Can you talk about some of them? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, to get people back into the workforce. So I mean, here in, at least in Norway, the national welfare system is called NAV. And
Okay.
when when you apply for any kind of welfare, I mean, people get NAV for everything. They get NAV when they're sick, they get NAV when they're unemployed, they get NAV when they're laid off, they get NAV when they have a baby, and they get parental leave and all kinds of stuff like this.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, we have, I mean, and this is maybe not so, this is probably more for our future welfare discussion, but I'll just give you a little teaser, because the use of the welfare system in this crisis is a bit different, right? But the way that works is, like, for example, you gotta go through all this stuff. You gotta submit your CV you have to talk about your interests, and you have to apply for minimum 5 jobs a week.
Yes, that's
And
normal here too.
yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, you have to do that, and
but it's being
usually,
waived. That's been waived. That provision has been waived by Governor DeSantis. He's cut that red tape out.
there ain't no jobs to apply for right now.
Exactly. That's the only reason why.
Yeah, it's the same thing here. Yeah, right now they're also being kind of lax on that rule. But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
normally when it's a bit more toned down here, for example, you have a caseworker, and it's all mostly done online now. And I would have to say I'm very impressed with how it's done for the most part. It's just like, you're in a little chat and you're talking to your advisor, and they send you messages and all kinds of stuff like this. And they will find stuff for you to do.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There are those people that fall through the cracks and are on knob forever and blah blah blah. But I think for the majority of people, these kinds of social safety nets are helpful in a lot of ways. I mean, dude, right now, and everywhere in the world, and definitely in America, I mean, we've got to do anything to keep people from going crazy and getting like Mad Max. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
you got to make sure people got money, stay fed, stay at your home. Like, because I mean, that's the problem. Like, when you have such an unsecure kind of system, and people aren't going to go to the doctor if they don't have health insurance. And if there's problems with people getting their like money and stuff like that, then they're going to say, oh, screw it, I'm going to go back to work. You know what I mean? So, which is exactly what we don't want people doing right now. So this is, I think, a very good argument for a welfare system, which sounds like it's kind of working okay right now. I don't know. We'll see when we get the checks. I'm still waiting for my check too, so I don't know.
Are you eligible? Are you eligible for that $1,200 stimulus check?
Oh, I don't know. Actually, that's a good point.
Something to look into. I mean, you're still an American citizen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you file taxes in America. I'm not trying to talk about your tax stuff here, but
Boutique files his taxes.
Very good, very good. So see, look, you're still contributing to the Screamin Eagle. So then I think you're eligible for it. I don't see why not.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Yeah, no, I gotta look. That's a very good point. That could be the biggest contribution to this podcast right now.
By the way, that's saying a lot, but like.
by the way, everybody, just so you know, if anybody's out there, if anybody's still listening out there, this podcast is all voluntary. Me and the Boutique and Screamin Eagle over there. So if anybody feels like it after the show, feel free to hit up the links below where you can perhaps donate or at least subscribe to this channel, so you can stay updated for the future. Yes.
Very good. Very true.
Man, you know what? I would love to sit around and talk all day long, but I think we should just pick this up again in a couple days, because I don't know about you, but my butt's starting to hurt. Sitting in
I'm
this
hungry
chair
for some lunch. It's definitely past
it's actually
our lunch hour now.
So thanks everybody for tuning in to the lunchtime live stream with Boutique and Bran. Screamin Eagle.
Brock. Screamin Eagle Brairwood here.
Screamin Eagle Brairwood over there.
And in the flesh in South Florida, coming to you gladly.
And this
via
is
the Progressives Abroad channel. Thank you so much, Boutique, for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on the show, and I think we'll make this a regular fixture of the show. Reporting live here from Oslo, Norway. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like our videos and our pages and do all that jazz. Find us next time. Don't forget to give us a shout. Progressive is proud. Over and out.